The loud bang against the bathroom door startled Parker Xavier so badly he nearly dropped his 5-year-old daughter's unicorn-shaped soap dispenser into the toilet. It was already a chaotic Thursday evening at the Westfield Mall, the kind where he'd promised Lily they'd only stop for new sneakers, but somehow ended up with a bathroom emergency and arms full of princess bandages she definitely needed. "Daddy, what was that?" Lily whispered, her eyes wide with concern as she finished washing her hands. "I don't know, sweetheart." Parker dried Lily's hands with a paper towel, then cautiously approached the family restroom's entrance. Another thud followed, accompanied by a frustrated groan from the neighboring women's bathroom. "Hello," he called out. "Is everything okay in there?" "No," came a strained female voice. "The door is jammed, and I've been stuck in here for 20 minutes. My phone's dead, and nobody's responded to my calls for help." Parker hesitated. As a single father, he'd developed a sixth sense for potential trouble, but the genuine panic in the woman's voice was unmistakable. "Lily, stay right by me, okay?" He took his daughter's hand firmly in his. "Madam, I'm going to try to help. Which stall are you in?" "I'm not in a stall, it's the main door to the women's restroom. The lock is completely stuck." Parker approached the women's restroom entrance, noting that the out-of-order sign that had been there earlier was now lying on the floor. "Stand back from the door," he instructed. "I'm going to see if I can get it open from out here." He examined the commercial-grade door. The handle turned, but the door wouldn't budge. Something in the locking mechanism had clearly malfunctioned. Placing Lily safely to the side with her new coloring book, Parker braced himself against the door, pushing and pulling at different angles. "Daddy's really strong," Lily announced proudly to no one in particular. "He can lift me and all my stuffed animals at the same time." Despite his daughter's vote of confidence, Parker's first attempts proved unsuccessful. After 5 minutes of struggling with the handle, he stepped back, wiping sweat from his brow. "I'm going to try something else," he called through the door. "Do you have anything thin and rigid in your purse?" "Like a credit card or nail file?" "I have several cards," the woman replied. "What do you need me to do?" "Slide one under the door if possible. I need to try to manipulate the lock mechanism." A moment later, a sleek black credit card appeared beneath the door. Parker picked it up, noticing the embossed platinum lettering but focusing on the task at hand. He wedged the card between the door and the frame, carefully working it around the latch. With a combination of pressure from his shoulder and precise maneuvering of the card, he finally felt something give. "I think I've got it." The door suddenly popped open, revealing a woman about his age with honey blonde hair falling in disarray around her flushed face. She wore a simple but obviously expensive navy blue dress that somehow still looked immaculate despite her predicament. "Oh my God, thank you," she exclaimed, stepping out with obvious relief. "I was beginning to think I'd be spending the night in a mall bathroom." "Daddy's a hero," Lily declared, abandoning her coloring book to inspect the rescued stranger. The woman's expression softened as she noticed the child. She knelt down to Lily's level. "He certainly is. My name is Francesca, but my friends call me Frankie. What's yours?" "I'm Lily Xavier, and I'm 5.5. She held up 5 fingers, then awkwardly bent her thumb halfway. "And this is my daddy, Parker. He works at the fire station, but not the part with the fires." Parker smiled apologetically. 911 dispatcher, he clarified, extending his hand. "Parker Xavier, glad we could help, Francesca." "Frankie, please," she insisted, shaking his hand. Her grip was firm, her skin soft. "Francesca Harrington is what my assistant puts on meeting invitations, not what friends call me." Recognition flickered across Parker's face. "Wait, Harrington." "As in Harrington Tech Solutions?" She nodded with a slight grimace. "Guilty as charged, but right now, I'm just a woman who needs to thank her rescuers properly." She glanced at her watch, a timepiece that probably cost more than Parker's monthly salary. "Would you two allow me to buy you dinner?" "I was supposed to meet some business associates, but they clearly gave up on me." Parker automatically began forming a polite refusal, A single dad with mounting bills didn't have time for spontaneous dinners with strangers, even incredibly wealthy, attractive ones. But Lily tugged at his hand. "Can we, Daddy? Please? I'm really hungry and she's pretty." Parker felt his face flush as Frankie laughed, a melodic sound that seemed to light up her entire face. "Out of the mouths of babes," she said with a wink. "Come on, I know a place right here in the mall that has great mac and cheese." "I'm guessing that's a favorite?" Lily nodded enthusiastically, and Parker found himself outvoted. "All right, dinner it is, but please, it doesn't need to be anything fancy." Frankie smiled. Sometimes the best things aren't fancy at all. The restaurant turned out to be a casual bistro with just enough elegance to make Parker feel slightly underdressed in his worn jeans and faded Nift t-shirt. But Frankie, despite her designer dress and the subtle diamond studs in her ears, put him at ease immediately, insisting they sit in a booth rather than at the white tablecloth tables in the center. While Lily colored on her children's menu, Parker found himself sharing more than he'd intended about his life, how he'd moved to a small apartment in Queens after his divorce 3 years ago, how he juggled shift work with single parenthood, and how every spare penny went into a fund for Lily's future. "My ex-wife moved to California for a job opportunity," he explained, careful to keep his tone neutral for Lily's sake. "We have a good co-parenting relationship, but the day-to-day stuff falls to me." "That can't be easy," Frankie said, watching as he automatically cut Lily's grilled cheese into manageable triangles without breaking conversation. "You seem to be handling it amazingly well." Parker shrugged. "You do what you have to do for your kids. I'm sure your parents did the same." Something shadowed Frankie's expression. "My parents were occupied with building their empire. I had a series of nannies who did the triangular sandwich cutting." She smiled at Lily. "Your dad's doing it right." As dinner progressed, Parker learned that, beneath the polished exterior of Francesca Harrington, 32-year-old CEO of a tech company valued at over $2 billion, was Frankie. A woman who snorted when she laughed too hard, had a weakness for chocolate milkshakes, and could discuss everything from baseball statistics to classic literature with equal enthusiasm. "So how does someone like you end up trapped in a mall bathroom?" Parker asked as they shared a massive brownie sundae for dessert. Frankie sighed. "Would you believe I was hiding? From what? Corporate raiders? Paparazzi? Worse, blind dates arranged by well-meaning board members." She absently swirled her spoon in the melting ice cream. "I had a business meeting here that ended early, and on my way out, I spotted my CFO's son, my supposed dinner companion, waiting near the entrance. I ducked into the restroom to call my driver for a stealthy exit, and well, you know the rest." "The universe has a sense of humor," Parker remarked. "Indeed it does. And apparently it wanted me to have dinner with you two instead." Her smile was warm as she watched Lily carefully dividing the remaining brownie into 3 precisely equal portions. When the check arrived, Parker reached for it automatically, but Frankie was faster. "Please," she said. "This is the least I can do. You rescued me tonight in more ways than one." Outside the restaurant, the mall was announcing its imminent closing. Parker suddenly realized how late it was getting. Lily should have been in bed an hour ago, and he had an early shift tomorrow. "We should get going," he said reluctantly. "Lily has kindergarten tomorrow, and I start work at 6. Frankie nodded. "Of course." She hesitated, then pulled out a business card and wrote something on the back. "This is my personal number. Not my assistant, not my office, just me. I'd love to thank you properly sometime, maybe when you don't have an early shift." Parker accepted the card, feeling a strange flutter in his chest he hadn't experienced in years. "I'd like that," he said simply. "Me too," Lily chimed in, making both adults laugh. Frankie bent down and gave Lily a gentle high five. "It was a pleasure meeting you, Miss Lily Xavier." "You take good care of your daddy, okay?" "I always do," Lily said with the solemn certainty of a 5-year-old. "He needs lots of help." As they parted ways in the parking lot, Frankie toured a sleek black car where a driver waited. Parker toward his 12-year-old Honda with the dented passenger door, he found himself looking down at the card in his hand, wondering if he'd ever actually call. Their worlds couldn't be more different, and Parker had learned the hard way that fairy tales rarely came true for people like him. But something about Frankie Harrington made him tuck the card carefully into his wallet anyway. 3 days later, Parker's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number while he was helping Lily build a castle out of cardboard boxes in their living room. "This is Frankie from the bathroom incident. Hope this isn't too forward, but I have 2 tickets to the Natural History Museum's dinosaur exhibition tomorrow. My niece canceled, and I remembered Lily mentioning dinosaurs. Any interest? No pressure." Parker stared at the message, his thumb hovering over the keyboard. He glanced at Lily, who was carefully coloring scales on what she dubbed the Princess Dragon Tower. "Lily, how would you feel about seeing real dinosaur bones tomorrow?" Her head snapped up, eyes wide. "Real ones, not just pictures. Real ones. The nice lady from the mall has tickets." "The pretty one who bought me mac and cheese." "Yes," Parker smiled and typed his reply. "Dinosaurs are Lily's second favorite thing after unicorns. We'd love to join you." "What time?" The museum outing was supposed to be casual, a simple thank you gesture and a child-friendly activity. But from the moment, Frankie met them at the entrance, her face lighting up at the sight of Lily's dinosaur-patterned dress. Hastily purchased from a discount store the night before, Parker felt himself slipping into dangerous territory. Frankie had traded her corporate attire for jeans, sneakers, and a vintage T-Rex t-shirt that made Lily squeal with delight. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore minimal makeup, looking somehow both younger and more authentic than she had at the mall. "I haven't been here since I was about Lily's age," she confessed as they entered the cavernous main hall. "My grandfather used to bring me on Sundays. It was our special thing." "My daddy brings me special places too," Lily informed her, slipping her small hand into Frankie's as naturally as breathing. "But usually the park or the library because they're free." Parker winced slightly, but Frankie didn't miss a beat. "The best things often are," she agreed. "Though I think you're going to love the dinosaurs here. They're gigantic." For the next 3 hours, Parker watched in increasing amazement as Frankie transformed from powerful CEO into the perfect museum companion kneeling at displays to point out details to Lily, reading information plaques in dramatic voices, and seeming genuinely thrilled by each new discovery. "She's wonderful with kids," observed an elderly woman beside Parker as they watched Frankie help Lily make a dinosaur footprint in a sand table. "She is," Parker agreed, surprised by the pride that colored his voice, as if he had any claim to Frankie's qualities. "Your wife is very patient," the woman continued. "So many parents rush their children through these exhibits." Parker opened his mouth to correct her but stopped. There was something painfully appealing about the tableau before him, Lily and Frankie with their heads bent together, laughing over something private and perfect. For a moment, he allowed himself to imagine it, a life where this could be his family. Then reality reasserted itself. Parker Xavier, struggling single dad and 911 dispatcher, had no business daydreaming about Francesca Harrington, tech heiress and CEO. After the museum, they stopped for ice cream at a small shop nearby. While Lily was distracted by the sprinkle station, Frankie turned to Parker. "I hope this wasn't presumptuous," she said quietly, "inviting you both today." "Not at all," Parker assured her. "Lily's had the time of her life, and honestly, so have I." "Me too." Frankie's smile held something vulnerable. "I spend most of my days in boardrooms and business meetings." Today was refreshing. "I imagine it must be difficult, balancing all that responsibility." She nodded. "The company was my parents' legacy. After they died plane crash 5 years ago, I had to step in. I was only 27 and completely overwhelmed." She watched Lily carefully adding exactly 3 sprinkles to each scoop of ice cream. "Days like today remind me what I'm missing while I'm busy running an empire." What about when you're not working? Family? Friends? Parker asked, then hesitated. Someone special. Frankie laughed softly. When am I not working? That's the problem. She met his eyes directly. And no, there's no someone special. Not for a long time. The air between them seemed to thicken with unspoken possibilities until Lily returned, proudly bearing her ice cream masterpiece. Over the next few weeks, something remarkable happened. Despite their vastly different schedules and circumstances, Frankie became a regular fixture in Parker and Lily's life. It started with simple texts, Frankie sending dinosaur facts for Lily or checking in on Parker after he mentioned a difficult shift. Then came more outings. A community theater production of The Little Mermaid, a trip to the botanical garden, Sunday afternoon at a food festival. Each time, Parker tried to contribute, insisting on buying the snacks or parking, but Frankie gently deflected, never making him feel less than while also never flaunting her wealth. She arrived in modest cars rather than her chauffeured town car, dressed in simple clothes that wouldn't stand out in his neighborhood, and seemed genuinely delighted by the small adventures they shared. One evening, after Lily had fallen asleep following a day at the zoo, Parker found himself sitting with Frankie on the small balcony of his apartment, sharing a bottle of wine. "Can I ask you something personal?" he said, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. "Of course." "Why us?" "You could be anywhere, with anyone. Why spend your free time with a broke single dad and his dinosaur-obsessed daughter?" Frankie was quiet for a long moment, swirling the wine in her glass. "Do you know what my life looks like when I'm not with you too?" She didn't wait for an answer. "Meetings where everyone wants something from me. Events where I'm paraded around like an asset. Dinners with people who see me as a business opportunity or a trophy to acquire." She turned to face him, her expression earnest in the dim light. "With you and Lily, I'm just Frankie. Not Francesca Harrington of Harrington Tech. Not the youngest female CEO on the Fortune 500 list. Just me, the person I might have been if life had gone differently." Parker's throat tightened. "And who is that person, the real Frankie?" "I'm still figuring that out," she admitted. "But I know she likes dinosaur museums and carousel rides. She laughs more than she has in years. And she's falling for a man who rescued her from a bathroom and hasn't once asked her for anything except her time." The confession hung between them, momentous and fragile. Parker set down his wine glass and tentatively reached for her hand. "I'm falling for you too," he said quietly. "And it terrifies me." "Why?" "Because our worlds couldn't be more different. I have a fridge held together with duct tape and a savings account that barely covers emergencies. You probably have houses I've only seen in magazines." Frankie's fingers tightened around his. "Houses are just buildings, Parker. What you have this home with Lily, the life you've built for her, that's worth more than anything in my portfolio." When he kissed her, it felt inevitable and impossible all at once. Her lips were soft against his, her hand coming up to rest against his cheek. For one perfect moment, the distance between their worlds disappeared entirely, but reality always returned. As their relationship deepened, practical complications arose. Parker refused to let Frankie pay for anything substantial, which limited their options. His shift work meant irregular hours, while her position required frequent business trips and evening events. And always, there was the unspoken question of what they were building together and whether it could possibly last. The first serious test came 2 months into their relationship, when Parker's babysitter canceled an hour before his night shift. "I don't have a choice," he told Frankie frantically over the phone. "I can't miss this shift. We're already short-staffed and I need the hours, but I have no one who can watch Lily." "I can do it," Frankie said immediately. Parker hesitated. "Are you sure? It's a 12-hour shift overnight." "Parker, I run a multi-billion-dollar company. I think I can handle one sleeping 5-year-old. Despite his reservations, Parker had no alternatives. When Frankie arrived at his apartment, he gave her a crash course in Lily's bedtime routine, emergency contacts, and the location of the extra inhaler for Lily's mild asthma. "You're sure about this?" he asked one final time at the door. Frankie stood on tiptoes to kiss him. "Positive." "Now go save lives, dispatcher." When Parker returned home at 7 a.m., exhausted from a particularly challenging shift involving a major traffic accident, he found a sight that stopped him in his tracks. Frankie and Lily were curled up together on the sofa, fast asleep amidst what appeared to be the aftermath of an epic fort-building session. Blankets were draped from the furniture, pillows scattered around the floor, and a plate of half-eaten cookies sat on the coffee table. As he stood watching them, Frankie stirred and opened her eyes. "Hey," she whispered, carefully extracting herself from Lily's embrace. "How was work?" "Rough," he admitted, helping her up. "How was Lily?" "Perfect." "We had a minor negotiation about bedtime that I clearly lost." She gestured to their sleeping arrangement with a smile, "but otherwise, it was wonderful." Parker led her to the kitchen, where he started making coffee. "Thank you for doing this. I know it's not exactly how high-powered executives usually spend their nights." Frankie leaned against the counter. "Can I tell you a secret? This was the best night I've had in years." Her expression grew serious. "Parker, I want you to know something. I'm all in here with you, with Lily, with whatever this becomes. I know there are complications and differences, but none of that matters to me." "It matters in the real world," Parker countered, though his heart raced at her words. "I can barely afford Lily's after-school activities." "You probably spend that much on coffee each week." "Then let me help sometimes," she pleaded. "Not because I'm trying to show off or because I think you can't provide, but because I care about you both, and what's the point of having resources if you can't share them with the people you love?" The word hung in the air between them. Love. Neither had said it explicitly until now. "Is that what this is?" Parker asked softly. "Love?" Frankie didn't hesitate. "For me, yes, I love you, Parker Xavier, and I love that little girl sleeping out there. I love the life you two have invited me into." Parker set down the coffee pot and crossed to her in 2 strides. "I love you too," he said, gathering her in his arms. "God help me, I do." They sealed the declaration with a kiss that felt like a promise, like a beginning. But as they stood in his tiny kitchen with the morning sun, illuminating all its flaws and limitations, Parker couldn't help wondering if love alone would be enough to bridge their differences. The answer came sooner than expected. 3 days later, a tabloid published photos of Francesca Harrington entering and exiting Parker's modest apartment building, along with speculation about her mysterious new boyfriend and his secret child. The article noted the disparity in their backgrounds and quoted sources close to the Harrington family expressing concern about her choice in companion. Parker was horrified. Lily was confused why her teacher had asked about seeing her picture in a magazine, and Frankie was furious. "This is exactly why I keep my private life private," she fumed during an emergency meeting with her PR team in her downtown office. Parker sat uncomfortably beside her, feeling hopelessly out of place among the sleek furniture and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. "We can issue a statement emphasizing your right to privacy," her publicist suggested. "Or we can get ahead of the story, do a controlled interview with a friendly outlet, present the relationship in a positive light." "There is no story," Frankie insisted. "This is my life, not a PR opportunity." Parker remained silent, watching the professional machinery mobilize around what had, until now, felt sacred and personal. When Frankie's assistant brought in lunch from what was clearly an expensive restaurant, he couldn't bring himself to eat. Finally, when they were momentarily alone, he spoke. "Maybe they're right to be concerned." Frankie looked at him sharply. "What do you mean?" "Look at all this." He gestured to the office, the view, the trappings of her position. "This is your world, Frankie. Board meetings and press statements and damage control. I don't belong here." "And I don't belong in a corporation," she countered. "I belong wherever I choose to be, with whomever I choose to love. It's not that simple." "It can be," she insisted. Parker, I've spent my entire adult life living up to other people's expectations, my parents, the boards, the markets. For once, I want to choose my own path. And if that costs you everything you've worked for, Frankie took his hands in hers, then I'll still have what matters most. In the weeks that followed, they weathered the media attention together. Parker was uncomfortable with the occasional photographer who appeared outside his apartment or Lily's school, but Frankie handled it with grace, neither hiding their relationship nor exploiting it. Gradually, the novelty wore off, and they settled into a new normal. That new normal included compromises from both sides. Frankie scaled back her work hours and delegated more responsibilities to her executive team. Parker accepted that allowing Frankie to share her resources wasn't charity, but partnership, letting her contribute to Lily's education fund or upgrade his ancient refrigerator didn't diminish his role as a provider, but enhanced their family's well-being. 6 months after their bathroom encounter, Frankie invited Parker and Lily to her home for the first time, a penthouse apartment with breathtaking views and minimalist decor that immediately made Parker tense with discomfort. "I don't like it either," Frankie confessed when Lily was distracted by the expansive balcony garden. "It never felt like home, just somewhere to sleep between meetings." "It's beautiful," Parker said diplomatically. "It's sterile," she corrected. "That's why I've been thinking. Maybe it's time for a change." "What kind of change?" Frankie took a deep breath. "I've been offered a position on the board of a tech education nonprofit. It would mean stepping back from day-to-day operations at Harrington Tech, taking a chairman role instead of CEO." She watched his reaction carefully. "I'd have regular hours, less travel, more flexibility." "Frankie, you can't change your entire career because of us." "I'm not. I'm changing it because of me." Her eyes were clear and certain. "The truth is, I've been unhappy in that role for years. Meeting you and Lily just helped me see there were other possibilities, other definitions of success." Parker studied her face. "You're serious about this?" "Completely, and there's more." She led him to a table where blueprints were spread out. "I've been looking at houses. Not in Manhattan, but in Westchester. Good schools, yards, reasonable commute to the city." "Houses? As in, for you?" Frankie's smile was tentative. "For us, if you want, if that's not too presumptuous or too fast." Parker looked at the blueprints, then at Frankie, then out at Lily, who was carefully examining a butterfly that had landed on the balcony railing. His heart felt too full for his chest. "Are you asking me and Lily to move in with you?" he clarified. "I'm asking if you'd consider building a life together, all three of us. A real home, not my corporate showplace or your apartment with the temperamental plumbing." She touched his face gently. "I know it's a big step. I know there are still differences we'll have to navigate. But I love you, Parker Xavier. I want to wake up next to you every morning and help Lily with her homework every evening and build something that matters." Parker pulled her close. "It is fast," he admitted, "and it's a huge change. I'd need to think about what's best for Lily, about logistics, about whether you can trust that I know what I want." Frankie suggested softly. He sighed. "It's hard to believe someone like you would choose someone like me when you could have anyone." "That's just it, I couldn't have you. You were never impressed by my money or my position. You saw me trapped in a bathroom, human and flawed, and you helped me without expecting anything in return." She rested her forehead against his. "That's rarer than you might think." Before Parker could respond, Lily called from the balcony. "Daddy, Frankie, come look, I found a ladybug family." They joined her, crouching to examine the tiny red beetles crawling along the railing. As Parker watched Frankie patiently explaining the difference between male and female ladybugs to his enraptured daughter, he felt the last of his reservations melting away. This woman, brilliant, kind, and somehow in love with him despite all logic, had become essential to his world. That night, after Lily had fallen asleep in the guest bedroom that Frankie had secretly outfitted with dinosaur bedding and a nightlight that projected stars on the ceiling, Parker made his decision. "Yes," he said simply, joining Frankie on her sleek sofa. Yes, what? Yes to building a life together. Yes to the house in Westchester. Yes to waking up together and helping with homework and all of it. He took her hand, but with conditions. Frankie raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. I pay my share proportional to my income, but my share nonetheless. Lily and I aren't charity cases. She nodded. Agreed. I keep my job, it's important to me, and I'm good at it. I would never ask you to give that up. Parker took a deep breath. And we do this right, not rushing, not skipping steps. I want to date you properly, to marry you someday if that's where this leads, to build something solid that Lily can depend on. Frankie's eyes glistened. Are you proposing a proposal down the line, Parker Xavier? He smiled. I'm proposing a plan, a future, if you'll have us. With all my heart, she whispered, leaning in to seal the promise with a kiss. 1 year to the day after their chance meeting in the Westfield Mall, Parker and Lily moved into a comfortable 4-bedroom house in a leafy Westchester neighborhood with Frankie. The house was elegant, but not ostentatious, with a yard where Lily could play and a home office for Frankie's continued board work. Parker's commute was manageable, and Lily thrived in her new school. The transition wasn't without challenges. There were adjustments to living together, negotiations about finances and routines, and the occasional tabloid interest when Francesca Harrington, now Harrington Tech's board chairwoman and a prominent advocate for tech education, was spotted at school functions or community events with her unconventional family. But the bathroom door that had once jammed proved to be the universe's most perfect malfunction. In getting stuck, Frankie had found her freedom. In helping a stranger, Parker had discovered his future. And Lily, their precocious matchmaker, had gained not just a stepmother but a co-conspirator in adventures, both dinosaur-related and beyond. On quiet evenings, when Lily was asleep, and they had the rare luxury of uninterrupted time together, Frankie would sometimes marvel at how differently their story might have unfolded. What if that door hadn't stuck? She would wonder, curled against Parker's side. What if someone else had heard me calling for help? And Parker, the practical dispatcher who had learned to believe in fortunate accidents, would simply pull her closer and whisper, "Then I would have found you some other way." Some doors are meant to get stuck, just so the right person can open them.